Today I'm going over my 2024 United States presidential election prediction between the Republican nominee Donald Trump and the Democratic nominee Kamala Harris. And this is my prediction as of August 1st, 2024. And the way I'm doing this prediction is I take into account polls, I take into account the current odds of the state itself, but a big part of this is also my own personal opinion in terms of how I've been covering this race, how I've looked at historical polls and presidential performances, and a lot of news media and such that I watch and consume. So a big portion of this, I can't stress enough, is my own personal opinion about how I think the election will go. So if you disagree with my prediction, that's totally fine. Of course, feel free to leave a comment below telling me why you do or if you don't. But I'm just letting you know that this is my own personal prediction. This is what I think will happen as of today. So first things first, I'm going to go over the map itself. There are 538 electoral votes, and the winning candidate needs to get over the number 270. That would be enough to have a majority of the electoral votes. And for the states, the light pink and light blue colors are going to mean that it's 5 percentage points victory or under. The darker pink to red color and darker blue color mean that it's above 5 points but under 15% margin of victory. And the solid red and solid blue color means I think the margin of victory in the state will be over 15% of the vote. So with that said, I'm going to go from the western part of the country and go across, and I'm going to assign the states I feel I can assign right now. The states that I view as the toss-up states, I'm going to lead towards the end because that's where I'm going to go and show some of the current polls for what they are right now. And again, this is a combination of polls, Polymarket, odds, and my own personal opinion. So first things first, I think the state of California is going to be safe for Kamala Harris. It's going to be above a 15-point margin for Harris in California. The state of Oregon is interesting because I could see Oregon maybe being under 15% of the vote for Harris defeating Trump in Oregon. I definitely could see it. I'm going to put it in the safe Harris column for now, but I certainly could see that being possible. Washington is similar to Oregon, where I think it'll be safe for Harris, but I wouldn't be shocked if she won the state by like 14 points or 13 points or something. But Harris wins the West Coast, getting her 74 electoral votes. Harris then wins the state of Hawaii as well. I think she'll win there by over 15 points. Now, I think the state of Alaska for Donald Trump. Alaska is going to be an interesting one to watch because I'm not sure if Trump's actually going to be able to get over 15% of the vote in Alaska. I could see him winning by like 14% of the vote, so I'm actually going to put Alaska in the likely Republican column, only because I think Trump will win it by about like 14 points. I don't think there's going to be much discussion about could Harris actually win Alaska. I don't think so, but I think it will at least be under 15% of the vote. Arizona and Nevada, I'm going to come back to later on in the video. They are some of the swing states I will be discussing. The state of Colorado, I think at this point it's going to be close to 15 points for Harris over Trump. Trump has not made any effort to contest the state, and seeing as Colorado has trended more and more to the Democratic side, I fully expect it to be a safe state for Kamala Harris. The state of New Mexico, however, just narrowly, I'm going to put it in the likely Harris column. I think this state is going to probably be won by Harris somewhere in like the 8 to 12 percentage point range, kind of a wide range, but somewhere in there. I don't think it'll be safe. So New Mexico, I think, will go for Harris in the likely Democratic column. The state of Utah now, I think, will go solid red for Trump. I don't think there's much of a chance Harris has at contesting that state. The state of Wyoming is the same, as is the state of Idaho. Montana, there's going to be a very contested Senate race to watch for in the state, but at the presidential level, it's going to be a solid, safe state for Trump, no doubt. The state of North Dakota, I think, is going to be a safe state for Trump, as will South Dakota. Nebraska is the first state where it gets interesting because it splits its electoral votes by congressional district. So it assigns 2 for the state at large and then 1 electoral vote for each district. The state at large will be safe for Trump. The 1st and 3rd district will be safe for Trump. The 2nd district, though, is a little bit of a different story. I think it's going to be a little bit closer, and I think Harris at this point is actually narrowly favored to win this district. But spoiling Maine a little bit, that won't matter too much because I think Maine's 2nd district is going to go for Trump, so that will kind of balance that out. The state of Kansas. Kansas is interesting, where it's a red state and it will vote for Donald Trump. I have no doubt, but it votes under 15% of the vote, actually pretty closely. I don't believe it's a state that's gonna be like. I don't think it'll be flipping Democrat anytime soon. But I wouldn't be shocked if Kansas narrowly goes under the 15% margin. That said, I'm going to put it in safe for Trump, but if it's like 14-point win for Trump in Kansas, I would not be shocked one bit. Oklahoma, I think, will be 7 electoral votes for Trump in the solid column. The state of Texas, this is one where I might get some flack for this, but I think Texas, it's still a Republican state, but it's been trending blue a little bit in recent elections. I think Trump actually wins Texas in the likely column, similarly to Alaska, where he's going to win it by like 13 or 14% of the vote. It'll definitely be a big win for Trump, but it won't be enough for him to put it in the safe over 15% victory margin for Donald Trump. The state of Louisiana, though, I think will be safe for Trump, as will the states of Mississippi, Arkansas, and Alabama. The state of Georgia will be coming back to. The state of Missouri, I think, is going to go safe for Donald Trump. The state of Kentucky will be safe for Trump, as will the state of Tennessee. The state of South Carolina, I think, will probably be safe for Trump, maybe likely, but I think it'll be safe. The state of Florida. Florida is interesting because Ron DeSantis in 2022 won the state by 20 points. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened again, but I think on a presidential ballot, I'm going to put narrowly Florida in the likely column. Again, Trump's going to win it probably in that closer end to safe, where it'll be like 14 points. But right now, I'll put Florida in likely Republican, but I could definitely see it being closer to that 15% side than that 5% side. So that gets Trump up to 180. Georgia will be coming back to because I believe that's going to be a swing state. North Carolina, I'll be coming back to as well. I don't think it's going to be as much of a swing state as some of the others, but I'll be talking about that relatively soon. The state of Illinois, I think, will be 15 points over for Kamala Harris. The state of Indiana, I expect to be solidly for Donald Trump, West Virginia will be the same. Now we have the state of Iowa and Ohio, and the question is, can Donald Trump break that 15% margin in Iowa and Ohio? I think it's certainly possible. I believe he won in 2020 by about 10 points, I want to say. So it's certainly possible. I'm going to err on the side of caution like Florida and give Ohio and Iowa to likely Trump. But again, this is probably by half a percentage point. Trump is going to win definitely in these states by double digits, but I'm putting it very closely in the likely column. Again, probably like 14.5 percentage point win there for Donald Trump. Next, we're going to get to the northeastern part of the country. We're going to have the District of Columbia will be solid for Kamala Harris. Maryland, I think, will be safe for Harris, as will the state of Delaware. New Jersey, I'm sure Trump would love to win the state of New Jersey, but I just don't see it being competitive. If it was Trump versus Biden, maybe Trump might have had a shot in making it under safe, making it likely, but I just don't see that happening. Rhode Island and Massachusetts, I think, are certainly going to be in the safe Democratic column. Connecticut, I think, will be safe. Vermont, I think, will be safe. New York is very interesting because I could absolutely see it in the midterm elections. It was under 15 points. I think the presidential election will be a little bit different. I think Harris will win it in a safe margin, but I would not be shocked if New York does become a likely state for Harris and not a safe state. I would not be shocked one bit. The state of Maine is very interesting because I think Donald Trump wins the 2nd district there, probably by somewhere about 13 to 14%. I don't think that's much of a debate. Maine's 1st congressional district, I think, is going to go safe for Kamala Harris, but Maine at large, I think, is more likely to be a likely Harris state than a safe state. Probably like in the 8 to 10 percentage point range win for Harris. So right now, that gets Trump up to 219 electoral votes. Kamala Harris is at 199 with 120 remaining electoral votes. Not all of these states are toss-ups, but I felt the rest of these states at least warrant a little bit of a conversation. First things first, I'm going to start with the state of Minnesota. Minnesota, similar to Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, are one of the Rust Belt states that at very least President Trump seems to be targeting and trying to put in play. However, some recent polling that showed it was close with Trump versus Biden have showed Kamala Harris rebounding in that state very well. And I think I feel very comfortable right now putting Minnesota in the likely Harris column. I don't think she's going to be able to win this state in like a 15% range, but I think she could probably get like a 6 to 8% margin of victory in the state of Minnesota. So I feel very confident putting Minnesota in Harris's likely column. The state of New Hampshire, I think, is also very similar. It's a state where it looked like Trump versus Biden was becoming a very close race in New Hampshire, and Trump might have been able to actually end up winning that state if that ended up being the election, but unfortunately, that's not the race. It's Trump versus Harris, and so far there's been 3 polls that have come out showing Harris leading by over 5 points in every single one. That is enough for me to warrant putting New Hampshire in the likely Democratic column. And aside from 2016, it's been a while since New Hampshire has voted for a Republican, and I'm not sure that trend is going to break in 2024. Not too dissimilar to New Hampshire and Minnesota, it looked like Virginia was getting a lot closer under Trump versus Biden. Now with Harris on the ticket, there's not been any polling done yet, but I would definitely argue that I think Minnesota is more likely to be in the likely Democratic column, probably about 5 to 8 percentage points or so victory for Harris in that state. That puts Harris at 226, Trump at 219. The next call I'm going to make is putting North Carolina. North Carolina is tough because I could really imagine Trump winning the state either way, but it's tough if he's going to win it over 5% of the vote. I think Trump might win North Carolina like 51-47, which would be 4 points, which would just be enough to put North Carolina in the lean column. I think he'll definitely win the state. I'm just a little unsure if he'll be able to break 5%. So I would put the state of North Carolina in Trump's column, in the lean column. Right now, Donald Trump is at 235. Kamala Harris is at 226. Now we get into the remaining swing states that I think are really going to be very close and decide the election. Firstly, I'm going to do the state of Arizona. Arizona right now, Trump has led in the polls consistently since it's been Trump versus Harris. There was one poll that came out today from Bloomberg and Morning Consult that has Harris up 2, but technically that is within the margin of error of the 3 points. So you could say it's an outlier or it's part of a growing trend. We'll have to wait and see. But otherwise, Trump is still up in the polling average by about 4.2 points. At this time, I feel very confident that I think Trump will still find a way to win Arizona. I think by 3 or 4 points is probably the higher end of what Trump will get. Maybe 2 or 3% more likely, but I think Trump will find a way to win Arizona. That puts him at 246. Harris is at 226. Next, we're going to move to the state of Georgia, a state that in every poll of Trump versus Harris right now, Trump has either led or he was tied with Harris in the Bloomberg Morning Consult poll. This is the most Harris-friendly poll I think we've seen since she joined the race, and even still it was a tie. So Georgia could definitely get very close, and it's going to be a very close race in Georgia. I still think, given the situation, I think Trump finds a way to win Georgia very, very closely. Biden barely flipped it last time around with very high turnout. I think the turnout will be a little bit lower this time around, and I think Trump will be able to win the state of Georgia. That's put Trump at 262. Harris is at 226. Now we go to the state of Nevada, and it's 6 electoral votes. The polling average only has 2 polls for this, and these are 2 wildly different results. Insider Advantage has Trump at 50 and 40 plus 10, and Bloomberg Morning Consult has Trump at 45, Harris at 47. Nevada is always tough because the polling in Nevada is usually very hard to tell. There's always a certain amount of undecided vote that breaks for one candidate one way or the other. And I believe Nevada has an option on its ballot called none of these candidates that usually gets a % or 2 that will keep a candidate from getting a certain percentage number. So it's always hard to tell. The only thing I can say is Trump has been polling very well against Biden in Nevada, and at least in the first poll, he continued that against Harris. We're going to have to wait and see how this race changes. I'm sticking with Donald Trump winning the state of Nevada very narrowly, but that'll definitely be one we have to keep an eye out for and keep watching for. So now Donald Trump has 268 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 226. It comes down to the 3 Rust Belt states, which I've been talking about in several videos now. These states are going to decide who the winner of the presidential election is. And North Carolina also, I don't know if I showed these polls earlier, so I just wanted to show this really quick before I do. The most recent poll had Trump plus 2 from Bloomberg Morning Consult. The Hill Emerson had Trump up 9. I think somewhere in between there makes the most sense. The state of Pennsylvania and its 19 electoral votes, this one's really tough because as of right now, Hillary Clinton has not chosen Governor Josh Shapiro to be her running mate yet. I think him being on the ballot changes this race. I think it's possible him being on the ballot may potentially give this race to Kamala Harris. But right now, Trump has either led in every single poll or been tied, including in the Bloomberg Morning Consult poll, where he reaches 50%, and it's been very, very close. But I think right now, I feel pretty good that Trump is going to find a way to win Pennsylvania. If Harris does choose Shapiro, I think that may be one we're going to have to watch and potentially change. But at least for right now, as of August 1st, I fully expect Trump to win the state of Pennsylvania. That makes Donald Trump the next president of the United States with 287 electoral votes. So that was Pennsylvania. Now we're going to go to the state of Michigan, where this is a state where Trump was leading in the polls very, very narrowly. And in one of my prior videos, I mentioned to keep an eye on it because where Trump did lead, he led with 48% and 46% of the vote, not close to 50%. There was a lot of room for Harris to potentially jump up. And we saw that in the Fox News poll where it was 49-49. Trump has not really had a consistent over 50% lead. And the most recent Bloomberg Morning Consult poll has Harris plus 11 over Trump in Michigan. I don't think she's going to even come close to winning Michigan by 11 points. I think that number is an outlier. But I think Harris being able to squeak out a 1 or 2 point win in Michigan, however, I think is completely plausible. And right now, I'm giving Michigan narrowly to Kamala Harris at this time. I think she probably wins this state by like a little under 2% of the vote, but I think enough to give it to her column at this time. Lastly, we're going to finish off with the state of Wisconsin and its 10 electoral votes. This is a state I think might be the closest margin of victory on Election Day between Trump and Harris. This race is so close. The polling average certainly says so. 48.2 for Trump, 48 for Harris. Every poll has been 2 points for the winner or under. Every single poll within the margin of error. It's really a coin flip for how Wisconsin could go. Honestly, if I was being really careful, I could just leave Wisconsin as a pure toss-up because it really could go for Trump or Harris. It could go either way. If it went for Harris, it would get her to 251. If it went for Trump, it would get him to 297. It's super, super tight. My gut instinct on this one is leaning towards Trump very narrowly, but I would not be shocked one bit if Harris finds a way to win the state of Wisconsin. It is so close right now. In my official prediction, I'm going to give it for Trump, but man, it is incredibly close and definitely one to keep an eye out for on Election Day. So Donald Trump wins this election, according to my prediction, with 297 electoral votes to Harris's 241. Definitely very close, very, very close election. From 2020 to 2024, Trump was able to flip the states of Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And in this scenario, I think it's going to be a very close election because a lot of states will be closely decided by under 5 points. Every single one of the swing states I talked about will be under a margin of 5 points. Some of them I'll bet will be under a margin of 1 to 2 points. So definitely one to keep an eye out for. Thank you so much for watching my video today. If you liked it, please leave a like. If you want to leave a comment below telling me your thoughts about this prediction, please do. And also, if you really liked it, make sure you click subscribe so you always get notified when I post more videos just like this one in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.